Welcome to the last day of your ClickUp mini course. We have explored most of the ClickUp features by now, but I just wanted to have a last look at ClickUp by making sure that you've shared the right spaces with everyone, sure that you can share stuff externally to your clients or stakeholders, how you can track the progress of your tasks, and best practices of ClickUp. Let's start off with sharing. The first thing you can share is elements of your hierarchy. You could decide to give access to a whole folder, a list, or space in ClickUp. It works in inheritance as with everything. If you give access to, say, this list called client alpha, the person won't have access to the other lists in that folder. Whereas if you gave access to that folder, they could access everything below. And it's the same thing with spaces. The only thing to be careful with spaces is that you cannot give access to a whole space to a guest. You have to give access to each folder to them one by one, which means each time you create a new folder, you have to invite your guests as well if you need them to access. To give some access, you just right click on the location and go to sharing and permissions and go to invite, write down the person's email or invite an existing person. And then you can give 4 types of access. Full access, which allows you to do everything, create tasks, etc. Edit access, which allows you to only edit existing tasks. Comments access, which allows you to only comment on existing tasks. And view only, which is just a read-only view to a guest or member in ClickUp. Now you could do that on list level, folder level, and space level, as we've seen. But you could also give external access to a view somewhere in ClickUp. So whether it's a list, a folder, and a space, you can give access to a whole set of tasks to your client or stakeholder, for example. Say you want to give access to a view to this client so that they can see the progress of each of their tasks. To do so, I'll just right click on the list, go to sharing and permissions, and go to share this view with anyone. And then I can actually select what I can share. I can choose to allow opening tasks, for example, and then I can decide that they can open tasks, but they can only see descriptions and comments. And from there, I can just copy the link to that view, and then I pasted it into my browser. And that's what my client will see externally. They can just open up any task and view what I've defined they can view inside. One last thing you can share in ClickUp is a single task. So you could decide to give access to a single task externally or to a guest, for example. You just right click and sharing and permissions, and then share with anyone. We will decide to share only the assignee and priority, for example, and then copy public link. Moving on to how to track progress over projects or tasks. The best way to track progress over a project is to use the overview that allows you to see the progress by the percentage of tasks completed in the list. That comes in very handy if the project is moving forward. But if it's an ongoing list, obviously it won't make sense as there'll always be new tasks added in. The second way to do it, if you work with subtasks, is to add a progress column. You'll just go to the plus button and go to progress, and we'll call it progress, and we'll let subtasks checklists display 100%, and we'll just add the column. Now what happens is that if I close some subtasks, it will adjust the percentage of completion of that task. So as you can see, this task is finished 67% because 2 out of 3 tasks are done. Now that you've understood how you can track progress over tasks, we'll see how you can track best practices. So there are 5 views you could use to track best practices, and I recommend you to put these views at everything level. These views are my tasks, no deadline, no assignee, no estimate, and overdue. My task is not really a best practice view, but it just allows you to see dynamically which tasks are assigned to you. That means every time someone logs into ClickUp, they can just get to that view and have a quick look at all the tasks that they have to do across different lists without having to navigate through this list on the left. Then there are what I call the triangle of best practices: no deadline, no assignee, and no estimate. I'm using a filter for each view where I'm filtering out the tasks that don't have a due date or an assignee or an estimate. What happens is that if I put a deadline on a task that doesn't have any, it will just disappear from my list. You can quickly clean out whatever has not been done through the best practices. It works the same way with assignees. If I start to put assignees on my task in this view, it will just disappear, and I'll just have to clean it out and make sure with my team that each task is assigned. You can have a weekly, monthly review of all the tasks that are not assigned or estimated or don't have a deadline, and go through that list really quick. So again, same with no estimate, you'll just have to put estimates and the tasks will disappear and they'll be estimated. And then there's a view for all the overdue tasks where you can see all the tasks that have a deadline that's behind and take a decision whether to push the deadline or to reach out to the person that works on that task. So that's it for day 6. There's so much more to explore with ClickUp, but we have to stay concise here. And I just want to finish up with 5 final golden rules to use with ClickUp. We've talked about this extensively through this course, but I just want to insist on these aspects. First one is to check up your security, your members, your pricing. Just make sure that you're not losing control over your workspace settings. Second, and I really want to insist on this one, is to keep it simple. I see so many times workspaces where there's thousands of lists, all the views are used, it's a mess, there's custom fields everywhere, sometimes duplicates. Keep a simple hierarchy, a minimum amount of views and fields. Then automate as much as possible. Even if it takes you days or even weeks to create your automations, just do it. It's worth every time you invest in it because it will save days and days to each of your team members over the span of years. Then twist your views and your custom fields to your need. Because very often I see workspaces where the views are not used and the client is asking, why am I not seeing some information, or how can I see things differently? And if you turned it into a custom field grouping or an assignee grouping, it would make task management so much clearer. And finally, we've talked about it today, make use of your best practices. Keep your assignees, deadlines, and estimates up to date. If you want to explore more about ClickUp, you have 2 options. You can either book a discovery call with me or move on to ClickUp Master, which is the ultimate course you will have online on creating and optimizing your system in ClickUp. There's nothing better than this one. You will learn everything. I will help you to build your hierarchy from the ground up. You'll know exactly when to use each views, how to design your automations, manage your custom fields, and most importantly, how to create change in your team, define a ClickUp champion. I'll give you pre-built templates that I've created for real companies, documented processes. I'll show you how to use Agile in ClickUp, which is a very common use case for IT teams. We'll explore dashboards and so much more. I'll see you around. Ciao, ciao.